Thank. 'Cause I 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 ' Hello, everyone. I'm the okayest bassist, and this is the Basics Volume 73. This is the usually weekly podcast that I do where we talk about things involving bass, whether those be lessons on a particular song, lessons involving particular techniques, or simple life lessons like not spending money that you don't have to get things that you don't need. Um, Today, I have a couple of uh, ideas of how today is going to go. I'm not feeling well, if you couldn't tell in general. Um, started feeling sick yesterday and then did a bunch of work and pushed myself too hard today, I think. So there's that. I do have Mr. Chris Volpini, who is supposed to be joining today. Just waiting to see him drop in here. Pardon me. The plan, as anyone could tell from the title, is to discuss the recent happenings in the world. A lot of people have already discussed it, way more involved and way more knowledgeable than I am, about the Fender situation going on in the European Union, where Fender have apparently sent multiple cease and desist letters. So they are warning, threatening, however wording you want to use, for legal action against other companies, whether those be large builders, small builders, or even retailers, um, more or less saying, you made a thing that looks like a Stratocaster. That's not allowed because they won another lawsuit recently. And they're basically saying you're infringing on our rights to make the Stratocaster. The thing you're making is like the Stratocaster, enough to the point that we're going to say you can't do that. And then they will basically either sue you, or you can, apparently it's Phil McKnight's video talks about like a lot of the details, but it's they have to pull all of those things they've sold back as a recall. They have to destroy them and, I guess, send proof. I don't know how that's supposed to work. Like, you just take some security footage from your factory as someone goes through with like a chainsaw and cuts everything to pieces. I don't know. Um, but either way, they're supposed to recall all of them, destroy them, and provide proof that that has occurred, and then pay them, like, I think it's 250,000 euros. So just over a quarter million with the United States and exchange rates. It's probably, I don't know. Let's look. I want to say that that is probably in the 350,000 range. So 250,000 euros in US dollar. So yeah, right now that's, as of this live stream, 291,000, plus they have to pay an additional like 3,500 euros for the legal fees. So they're basically saying, hey, you made a thing, it looks like the Stratocaster, you're not allowed to do that. Take it back, give the person their money back, like recall it, and destroy it, and also pay us $300,000 US, or we're going to sue you for more. Which, like, I don't know how that works. Like, if you sell a guitar for 500, does that mean Fender gets the $500? Because I don't know. I mean, there's more to go into that, but just on my side, it's like, what is it that these companies have to lose if they fight? Um, and then there are other things I want to discuss when Chris can join. But like, one of the big things is, what happens if they fight it back and they're like, no, this isn't the Stratocaster. This is whatever. This is a thing we made, and it's different. It's not the same thing. Like, if you're already going to be out $300,000 and you're supposed to take the cost of recalling all of these things. So say whatever. Say you've got a company, even on the bigger side, if they've made 500 instruments at $1,000 a piece, let's say they made 500 profit, 50% margin. So if they've got 500 of these things at $500, then they have $250,000 that they've made in profit. So if they fight it, like if they pay the $300,000, they've already lost money. So if they fight it and don't pay that money and Fender takes them to court, like what do they lose? They get all of the money? Okay, but if you haven't made $300,000 off of it, then it's again, I don't know. I'm not an attorney. I don't play one on TV either. Um, it's just it's an interesting situation. Also, like that internationally, the law is different. So again, I'm just some guy in the middle of nowhere in the United States. So international law isn't a thing I know. But sorry, I do find it interesting that, like in the European Union, it's different than the United States. It's different than apparently the UK. Like, what is it that makes the things so different? How can you have like a copyright or a patent in one country or set of countries that you don't have in another? So, like if I get a patent or a copyright or trademark or whatever the case is, the legal term for this, if I get that on an instrument that I design, what countries have to follow that law? Like that's again, I don't know legal stuff. So I'm not gonna it's the question that I have on these things is how does this affect the EU? Which Phil McKnight in his video even said, like, okay, so they have to recall it. Sure, you sold a, if you agree that Fender is correct in the stance that they own the rights to that shape, that design, whatever. Like, okay, if you, for the sake of argument, you agree they have the rights to that. Okay, fine. Why do they have to destroy them if it's only illegal to sell it in the EU? It's a great point. I firmly agree with Phil's question because, like, if they're not illegal to sell in the US or in the UK or wherever, why wouldn't they recall them and then I mean, yeah, granted, it's going to be extra overhead because they're going to have to ship them. But say again, the company from before, they had 500 of a certain model that did that. They recall them. Yes, they're losing money because they've now paid to produce and ship them to whatever the sellers or distributors or direct purchase, either way. Those are then coming back. They've already paid to send them. Now, individually, they're paying to receive them, whether that's the person bought it at a Thomann and then returned it back to Thomann because it was recalled, which it's not like this is a safety recall either. So it's not like, "Oh, hey, sorry, we realized we accidentally lined our pickup cavity with asbestos, so you should probably bring that back before you get cancer." It's not that. Like, this is literally a, "Hey, we got in trouble because the shape of this thing is too close to another shape, so we need you to return those." But if someone likes their instrument, they don't have to return it. This isn't like a forced, "We're going to your house to get our guitar back." So, the, I suspect the percentage of items returned that are claimed for recall is going to be very low. Um, if I have an instrument and I like that instrument, and then I see on the news, "Oh, hey, if you have the GOC Illumina B from GOC, those got a copyright claim against them and you need to return that." I would be like, I mean, if I get all my money back and they're paying shipping, I really like that bass. So would I want to get rid of it? Probably not. Um, it's just it's interesting to me that I don't think it's going to go. Obviously, it's not going to go perfectly. Nothing ever does. But the other side of it, like, that I wanted to discuss. And since I haven't seen Chris yet, I'm just going to go ahead and get into it. Let me see if I can bring up the picture here. Hello. There we go. Whoa, shaky camera. No, no picture, image, photo. This one, that one. Put it up. Why don't you do what I say? Image, photo, this one. Share the photo. Just put it up here. Thank you. I didn't mean without me. Why am I tiny? Don't do that. This, that's better. Okay. So this came from the comments on one of the GOC videos. That's why I mentioned it. So person put this conversation started where someone came in and said that they didn't appreciate the designs on the GOC because they felt that um, like the cutouts on the pick guard and the three little dots, and they felt like the GOC design wise was ripping off ideas from other companies and then not even executing the ripoffs well. Uh, I had said that, I don't think they were sitting here going, oh, hey, we're going to take that thing from someone else and rip it off badly. Like nobody makes that kind of plan. I had stated that I figured maybe if anything, they were doing a nod to someone else, like, hey, Strandberg does this. We really like that. It goes over well. People enjoy it. So why don't we do that same thing? Um, and then uh, I don't know if it's un Americano or un Americano. Don't know if they're going against the Americas or if it's just an American in Spanish. But it said, uh, in response to my statement of, I think they, if anything, are giving a nod. Maybe they just liked those things of design and thought, hey, I think it'd look cool if I did it this way. And as you can see on the screen, I don't know. I feel like it might as well be grounds for saying every company that has ever used a Fender body or a head shape is just copying design cues from Fender themselves and calling it a hack job. Recognition is a big part of design decisions. If you're marketing the type of people that would buy that type of high quality, high cost, like a Dingwall or a Sandberg, they can recognize that this instrument is trying to do the same thing. So this comment came a couple, as it says here, I screenshot this earlier, so it came 2 days ago. So this was on the heels of people starting to talk about the Fender situation. And I said, well, keeping Fender out of things and who does or doesn't make copies, I think it goes back to anything that has to do with using an idea the same or even similar to another person. You can make a nod to someone else's idea, but defining the specific line as to, supposed to say when, as in time, someone might be infringing, I voice to text. Upon that idea or intellectual property is something I leave to attorneys. I'm going to leave myself a note because I did want to do an impartial discussion. Um, so the other thing I wanted to discuss, which again, hoping I get someone to join in, um, is simply on that, like, obviously legally somewhere there is a line as to, what line defines is something an intellectual property, is something whatever. We're just going to say is something covered legally, protected or not. whether the term being used is intellectual property, copyright, trademark, whatever. I don't care. A patent, whatever. So is it protected or is it not? And that is, I think, a very significant question as to how far, because you can't patent an idea. Like I could say, oh, I've come up with a machine that I've come up with an idea that we make a machine that can take carbon dioxide and it can separate the carbon from the two oxygen molecules, and it takes that solid pure carbon and compresses it into a diamond, and then as a byproduct it releases pure oxygen. Cool. How are you going to do that? I have no clue, but this is my idea, so if anyone ever does it, I get the credit and I get the money. You can't just say, hey, I came up with this idea. Like Star Trek came up with the idea of dilithium crystals. So if someone ever makes dilithium in a crystal and it can power a starship, oh well, we've got to go back and give Star Trek credit for it. No. So it's there's a lot of questions in there. My biggest one is like, how far should something that is covered be covered? So, does anything with a longer upper horn and a short lower horn with a rounded body shape, like how vague into the design does it go? Like, do we have specific, this exact shape is a Stratocaster to these exacting dimensions? So if I take something that's exactly a Stratocaster right now and I carve off an inch from the lower horn and I splice on a bit and add an inch to the upper horn, is that all it takes? If go with Ibanez with the super strat shape for Steve I. It's got the monkey grip. It's got the handle. If I take a Stratocaster and I drill a hole through it, well, it has the outline, but mine has a hole in it right there. There's a hole in that. That's mine. Like, is this a Vanilla Ice situation where under pressure gets an extra beat, and then he's going to say, oh, it's completely different. Sounds different. It's got an extra beat in there. It's not the same song. Like, I can understand Fender saying, this is our thing. We made if you go into an emoji keyboard and you type in guitar, you're going to see a Strat. You're going to see a Strat. You'll probably see an acoustic. And if it includes bass, you're probably going to see a P bass. That's it. I mean, Fender, now granted, not the acoustic, because that's way before them, but Fender is almost certainly what you're going to see if you look up generic guitar. If you just Google guitar, probably going to end up seeing some Strats, some Tellys. You might see SGs and Les Pauls and things like that, but on the whole, stereotypical guitar shape is a Strat. So how far is that shape protected? Like, again, this is all for attorneys, but like if I decided that I was going to start making my own instruments, like how protected is someone's design? So if I start doing an EHB shape, but I leave everything the same, but here where the horn attaches to the body, I bring that carve down. I bring it down half an inch, so that the neck is the same thickness. The front of that is the same thickness. It doesn't widen out when it gets closer to the neck. Is that protected? Like, how far from an idea do you have to be for it to be your own idea? So if it is exactly the dimensions and everything of a Strat, that's a Strat shape, P bass shape. Strat shape, whatever. This is a short scale, 28.5 inch. I think Fenders are usually like 23.5, 24, somewhere in there. So this is longer scale. It's got a Jackson headstock, but I mean, we're talking about the shape. How does this qualify? If it's a Strat shape, but it's a bass. It's not a normal 6-string guitar. Does it count for 12 strings? If I take a Strat clone, if I don't want to get sued by Fender and I'm making things, can I make ultra short scale basses out of them? I just cut part of the headstock off, change the tuning keys to bass tuning keys, swap out the nut and the bridge, maybe swap the pickups. They might still work for a bass anyway. Like, can I save all of the body blanks? All of the bodies I already have that are carved, but I just put bass stuff on them. I use the same neck. I use a different neck. If it's a bass, is it covered? Like, each of these things is a variation. If it's an exact copy of a Strat for the body, excuse me, if it's an exact copy of a Strat for the body, but it's a bass, does that change it? Is it still protected? If it's the exact dimensions of a Strat, but before I do any finishing, I run it through a planer 4 or 5 times, make it really thin. It's now thinner than a Strat. Are Super Strats covered? They have the pointier horns instead of the more rounded horns. Like, again, how far from an idea do you have to change before it's no longer your idea? So if, again, it's all so silly, but it's not, because you can't just say, oh, anybody can do any copies of anything that you want. I think Phil made a good point of, like, this is because it's artistic. This is because it's, it's not a utility. It's not something that is specifically made to complete a specific type of work. Now, granted, there are working musicians, things like that, but like Phil said on his video, which I recommend you go see, um, he talked about it. He said, you can't patent a shovel, like just a regular spade shovel. You can't patent that. You can't trademark the shovel itself because it's a tool, it's a shovel. You can't be like, oh, you're not allowed to create Phillips screwdrivers. That's Phillips. Mr. Phillip has that. It's a tool. Like, it might have been patented at one point, and then it went into public domain. They were using standards the whole time. Flatheads, whatever you want to call it. Flathead's a fish. It's a type of catfish. But anyway, like, when it comes to a musical instrument, the big question, and I've asked it multiple times already, how different does something have to be to not fall under this? Again, if it has, so like the EHB has a rounded body, it's rounded on the bottom with a short horn off this way and a long horn off this way. If I showed that to somebody, they'd say it's a guitar. You know what this is? That's a guitar. Okay, thanks. Is anything guitar shaped, electric guitar shaped, like double cut? It's everything. It's just like, I'm not talking the crappiness that this is for all the small people, because getting a message or one of these letters for someone who's a smaller company is probably terrifying. Um, like, it's not like any of these smaller companies are just making money hand over fist. Like, there are companies out there most of us probably haven't heard of who got this letter, and they're basically being told by one of the 2, 3 biggest guitar brands, we will use our entire fortune, our war chest of money to put you out of business, which I don't know how the laws work in EU. I know I've had friends in the United States who have had lawsuits come against them, and it can ruin an entire business. You can have a business and you have something happen outside your control. And granted, this is why there's insurances and stuff, but again, I don't know how that works in the European Union. Like, if you own a restaurant in the United States and someone comes in and doesn't tell you they have a food allergy and you serve them that food, they could turn around and sue you. And they could make a statement, something simple as they didn't alert that the chicken Alfredos that I was ordering could have contact with shellfish. They didn't tell me that, or I wouldn't have ordered it. Okay, well, you're the one with the food allergy. We didn't intentionally put that in there, but there's a chance that sauce from one thing managed to get into another, whatever. Like, I mean, again, I don't know. I don't own and run a restaurant, but uh, like that could happen, and you could get sued, and it could be none of your own fault. That person should tell you, hey, I have this. Please make sure. Like when I used to own an ice cream shop, and we'd have people who'd come in and go, hey, I have a nut allergy. And we'd be like, well, I can't guarantee that nothing has come into contact with some sort of tree nut. What I can tell you is the stuff down here doesn't have it in it, and it's not even in the same container, like cabinet, as what you're allergic to. That'll be your best bet. We'll extra clean and sanitize the scoop just to make sure there's not secondary contact, but that's the best I can do. But in the United States, you could have that lawsuit and it could cost you your whole business. It could be all the money that you've made. It could be now they're after your assets. If you don't have yourself protected with like a corporation shell, they could go after your personal assets, your car, your house, your savings, your retirement fund from a different job that you work. Like, someone feasibly could go after all of those things. I don't know how it works in the EU. I don't know if there are like company protections in place where it's like, hey, and that it's kind of the sad thing because companies like Fender have all this money and they can just stay in court. Like they can pay an attorney $500,000 who his job now is just to show up to court. Like, he's their attorney now. And he just shows up to court against Jim Bob over here who makes 50 guitars a year and sells them for, whatever, handmade to the customer spec. Maybe he makes 50 a year. He makes one a week. And maybe he sells them for $2,000. So $2,000 times 50, he's brought in $100,000, but he has all his equipment. He has the materials. He has the electronics he's buying. So maybe that's his job. He makes 50 guitars a year, and Fender wants 250,000 euros plus 3,500 for legal fees, and expects him to go to his customers and say, hey, I need that guitar that you designed. You told me you really like the look of Fender, but Fender can't make for you or won't make for you what I'm willing to. And mine's only 2 grand. Fender's trying to charge that for some of their made in Mexico instruments. So obviously, I'm cheaper than what you would get Fender Custom Shop, even if they would build what you want exactly. So this person who doesn't make that in 3 years, doesn't make profit of that in five, is screwed. Like, they can't afford, like, they're gonna have to hire an attorney or try to represent themselves. Again, don't know how that works in the European Union, but They're taking time away. They're not going to be able to work because they're in court. All of these things will pile up, and eventually it's just going to be, you know what? Bankruptcy. I'll close the business. The business no longer exists. Um, Go after my assets. Do you want my tools? Here you go. I'll just go get a job doing something else because now I can't afford to do this. And it sucks. Like, I don't know how, I keep saying it because it's true. I don't know how the legal stuff works over there. Like, I don't know if one person sends out 50 lawsuits, can five of those people, can all 50 of those people do like a class action defense? Like, I don't know how that would work, because if you have multiple defendants and one of them's just blatantly a Strat ripoff, like 100% doing what they're claiming is happening, like, nah, yeah, we literally just, yeah, no, we really do just rip off Strats. That's all we do. That's our whole business model. Then, like, well, that person did it, so all of you did it. Like, I don't know how that would work, but like, it's sad because the big corporations have enough finances that they can just hire these attorneys and they can go after the people, and it's going to cause people to lose businesses. It's going to, Gibson's done it too. If you look at Glenn Fricker from Spectre Sound Studios, he did one a few years ago, I think it was now, about a guy out of Canada who makes V-shaped guitars. And he bought one, and the guy got a cease and desist from Gibson saying, basically, you're stealing the Flying V. That's ours. Don't do that. And he had the option of trying to fight it, and the guy flat out said, there's nothing I can do. I can't fight a corporate giant as me. Like, there's not enough time and money involved for an individual to take on a big corporation. So, I mean, the whole situation is kind of like the stuff that's happened on YouTube over the last few years. Like, if one of my videos, on all my videos, when I do play the audio, I have those same few licks that I play. And on one video, I guess my playing was good enough that I got an automatic, when I uploaded the video, it checks the audio, and it came back with, you are being, it's not like a copyright strike, but you're being given a warning that we've detected the use of someone else's audio. And I was like, I didn't put sound effects, I didn't put a song in here, what's going on? And I look into it, and apparently on that particular day, I played Fleetwood Mac's The Chain well enough that I think it said it was like a 2004 remix or something like that. It said I had the option to cut that whole section of the video, mute that section, or I guess just re-upload the video. Um, and then there's things like that. Like, okay, so if I take part of someone else's video, put it into my video, and they claim it, oh, that's my production that they took. So they either get all or part of that money. Uh, there are plenty of musicians that if you use or play their songs in your videos, they'll copyright claim you. So, like, is that how this works with what Fender's doing? Like, can they just get a partial on it? Like, okay, yeah, you're selling stuff that's a copy of ours, so we get half the profit. Like, I mean, at least that would leave people an option to be like, yeah, I make, again, the guy who makes 50 guitars a year. And he's like, okay, so I bring in 100K. I guess I can give you 50. And at least now I'm not in court forever. Um, I just, I would love, I've looked and I can't find it. I would love to see an official Fender, like, answer. I guess is the word I want, or justification at least, or just a simple statement, something to say, hey, so we hear you, the people of the world. Um, yes, we sent this. This is why. And of course, no one's the villain in their own story. Nobody wakes up, goes to work, and comes home and talks to their friends, family, whatever, and says, "Let me tell you how awful I was to all these people today. Let me tell you how I completely ruined someone's day. And it was just because I'm an awful person and I had no reason whatsoever." Like that. No. But like obviously there's everyone's own side to their story. So Fender's going to come up if they ever did this, and I don't, again, I haven't found it. I've looked. Um, like Fender's going to come back and just say they do. Their answer is going to be pretty simple. It's going to be something like, "Hey, the Strat is our design. It's the whatever. It's the best selling guitar shape of all time. Um, we won our lawsuit thing that says, yes, that's ours and we're allowed to protect it. And we're doing this because the economy's bad and people are buying cheap alternatives, and it's making us look bad because people are buying cheaper versions of what we sell and theirs isn't as good, so then they're going to maybe think that it looks poorly upon us." I don't know how to justify it, but something like that. But it's funny because all of this stuff just piles one onto the next and just leaves with more questions like, okay, so, okay, if somebody's picking up on eBay a knockoff that was made overseas and it says Fender on the headstock, and you buy it and you think, wow, this is the worst guitar I have ever had. These Fenders are not all they're cracked up to be. And then they return it and they go buy something else. Like, okay, I can understand that. If it's legitimate, they are pretending to be you and making you look bad. Okay. But again, how much of this idea can be yours? How much of this idea, how much does it need to be changed to be someone else's idea now? Because it can't be everything that's locked together with strings across the top that when you pluck a string, pickup is sending a signal. They can't all be yours. So what is it? Like, is it how exact does things, how exactly do things have to come towards yours? Um, hey, looks like he's getting ready. Oh, so some lights coming on as he gets ready to join. Well, for me, Chris is frozen, but maybe I'm the one frozen. I don't know. Is he dare? He picked a good time because the last leg. Oh, there he is. Hello, sir.
Am I in or
I, I see you moving.
okay? So sorry, my computer. I've been fighting with. I'll be honest, I didn't even look at the clock. I've been fighting with the computer. It's been trying to update, and I'm not sure
Ah,
why, but it doesn't seem to be going as planned. So I'm on my phone.
there we go.
I
So
looked down and I said, "Oh, I'm like 30 minutes late."
that's all right. I started out with simply discussing the, like, people already know what's going on with Fender, and my two biggest things
See,
are one. Go ahead.
oh, see, I don't. I've been on a Fender boycott for a while, so I wasn't paying attention. I know they're suing a lot of people, and
They've
the
sent
way they're doing their price
multiple.
increases right now is insane.
they've sent multiple cease and desist letters to manufacturers and even, I guess, to some of the retailers in the EU, more or less. If you watch Phil McKnight's video, he talks about it a lot because, of course, it's Phil. But long and short,
Yeah.
people are getting the letters, and it's basically saying you have to recall the product, like bring them back, destroy them, and pay us 250,000 euros plus 3,500 euros for legal fees. So
Sure.
$300,000 US you've got to pay because you dared make something that looked like a Strat. So the
That wasn't
biggest,
copyrighted to begin with.
well, in the EU, they just won some sort of legal claim on the Strat, on like the shape or something, and they won.
Yeah, in Germany.
So now they're taking that small win and trying to take the little tiny ball of snow and roll it down the mountain and get an avalanche.
Uh,
But
I'm just
like my
really surprised that anybody looked at what Gibson did a couple of years ago and said, "Yeah, let's do that." That worked out great for them.
my biggest thing is what I've said a couple times so far is like how much of an idea can be yours. Like if you say, okay, this is the shape, like the example I gave. So if I'm one of these companies and I have 50 bodies already cut, carved, ready to go.
Yep.
They just need attached and finished. If I slap a bass neck on it and say, oh, this is my new ultra short scale 4-string bass, it's not a Strat because it's not a guitar. Like how much how exact do the dimensions have to be? If I make the lower horn half an inch shorter and the top horn and half an inch longer, if I carve out the monkey handle from Steve Vai's Super Strat, like if I just drill a hole through the middle of the body and say, oh no, that's not a Stratocaster, that's a Holy Caster because it's got a hole in it right there. Like how much of
Well,
an idea?
if they're after, if I think if they were going after like Chinese people that are actually like writing Fender on the headstock and doing all that, I'd be all for it. But my understanding, I'm on all those. Um, log real quick because I think my computer isn't being stupid now. It seems to have updated. Um, Actually, it looks pretty good on the phone. Um, so is that Leo Fender only ever copyrighted the headstock and not anything else. I know a couple times. Here's a PR night. It already is.
Oh yeah.
And I can talk about this on a few different levels. Um, Obviously, like as a player and stuff, but I also run a music store. Um, so here's the thing about like because it's a question I get often. Why don't we deal Fender? Why don't we deal Fender? And the answer for that regard is that Fender makes it really hard to be a dealer because they want a substantial upfront order. I'm not going to like say the amounts and stuff, but they want a substantial upfront order, and like that for a small shop like ours, we'd have to only deal in Fender, FMIC, all their companies. Like that would be our option. Is like if we wanted to do that, then it's all Fender, Gretsch, Charvel, whatever else they own. Um, so, and then, what they do is they sell direct. So you pay them all this money to compete with them. And it's like, even if they just sold it at retail prices, but they run sales. They run sales during peak seasons. Like they have Black Friday sales. They have all this stuff that I can't compete with as a store. So I pay
Yeah.
them all this money for them to screw me over. And what ends up happening is people come to my shop to try things and then they go home and buy it offline.
Yeah.
And so there's no that coupled with for what I have seen, a very substantial dip in quality and a very substantial increase in price. Um, higher end Mexican Fenders. There's Mexican Fender P bases for $1,600
Yeah.
now. It's when I carry so many companies that do similar designs that are way better instruments and way less money. Um, with this whole idea that they're going to beat everybody into submission isn't. It never works. Um, you're just going to have people resist your brand. I was already on a Fender boycott because of the preemptive layoff they did a couple years ago, because they thought the economy was going to downturn, so they laid everybody off. Only in this country could they get away with something like that. But it's it's wild. It's that's the thing is I'm not really a Fender hater. I don't like we talk off the record and stuff, and I don't like MF
Yeah.
Fender on things. I have a 72 precision bass that I love. Um, I've had many Fenders over the year that were great. I've had a few that weren't. Um, but what they're doing right now and what they've been doing really, really ever since they went private equity, is just why would I even look at them honestly? Because I think they're going to go the way of like a lot of keystone companies. One time Black and Decker tools were like that was one of the best you could get. Now it's like it's a name you see at like Walmart.
Well, we don't carry them.
I think Fender. Well, I mean, I don't like. I'm saying like
I got you.
it's not a good brand
Yeah.
anymore. It's just kind
If you show
of.
up with Black and Decker to a
But
job site, you're going to be laughed off the job site.
yeah, yeah, and I think that's the way it's going to be I think that's the end game, unless there's a severe shift in the corporate culture or whatever. I think that's the end. These, Gibson Fender brands. You're gonna have a lot of people with the old stuff that they still love. I still know people with old Black and Decker tools that they love. Um, and but when's I have the benefit of playing around and playing in different towns and stuff, and like I can't tell you the last time I saw anybody playing their brand new Gibson on a date. I've seen people play old Gibsons, I've seen people play new Epiphones, but
Yeah.
seeing a brand new Gibson in the wild has become a rarity. Fender has avoided a lot of that, but now I just can't believe that they saw what Gibson did and they're like, yeah, we're going to do that. After seeing what happened with Gibson when they did it.
And that's one thing I was talking about earlier was like the only thing that I can see that this will accomplish for them is the small shops because they're going to go away. Like they can't fight the corporate legal machine that Fender will have. Like like I used an example earlier, if you've got a guy who his whole job is making guitars, maybe he makes 50 a year, maybe he chugs out one a week.
Yeah.
And if he's selling those at 2 grand a piece, he's making $100,000 a year, but he's got to pay his power, he's got to buy materials, he's got, R&D. Like the dude literally might bring in 100K, but that's just him making his living. As soon as if
Mm-hmm.
that guy or gal, whoever, gets that letter, their company's done. Like obviously they can't afford $250,000. They can't afford to pull all of the things back and refund their customers, which let's face it, like I said earlier, this isn't a safety recall. This isn't a, oh hey, anything that's Fender Stratocaster shaped is going to be dangerous, so you need to give it
No,
back.
but there's
The
another option. I mean, I can't speak for Europe, um,
yeah.
but I mean, around here, they could always go the class action. You know, if the small builders got together,
Well,
they
and
could always go
that
class action.
I mentioned that, and like I said, obviously you just said it too. Like I don't know European law, but I
Yeah,
don't know if I know you can be class action into a dispute. I don't know if you can be class action defending because all it would take at that point is if you have 40 small builders who are each making 50 guitars a year, all it would take is one of them to have legitimately infringed, and now the whole case would be lost because you're all one entity. So I don't know how that works. Like I'm not an attorney. So, but the fact of the matter is like that cease and desist letter for someone who's just doing this out of their house, like that's probably job ending. Like they're gonna kill those guys, and then the PRSs, the Ibanez, the anybody else who's a bigger brand, they have enough legalities that they're just gonna tie each other up in litigation, and it's the small builders that'll suffer from it. They're the ones who are gonna lose a livelihood. If they were in the US and they're going um, as not like an LLC or S corporation or whatever, if they're just, you know, primary private party, personally ran, like they could go after assets, they could go after their houses, they could go after their cars, their investments, like anything that person owns. If they're a sole proprietorship, their personal stuff is on the line as well. I don't know how that works in the EU, but it's just
I don't know.
like you said, it's funny because Gibson did the dumb years ago of, hey, we're gonna sue all these people, cease and desist letters, and like it put a lot of people, it put a lot of some people out of business. Like they were like, I can't fight this. I'm just gonna roll over and give up. I'll just go get a regular job and not do
I
this.
think it kind of it's one of those things too where in a rare instance the internet can be helpful. Is like there's been a huge backlash
Oh yeah.
on the
I said
internet,
earlier,
and like people, you know, that could be what changes things because I mean, again, it's baffling that but that's it. If Fender, they're private equity, and same thing with Gibson. It's just a bunch of rich dudes jerking each other off about those board meetings. It's just a bunch of egos that everybody's like reinforcing, and I'm sure that they thought this was going to go well in
or
every
under the
regard, but it's
radar.
really not. Yeah, and so it's heartening that we're still that there's still some form of resistance when these companies do the nonsense.
Well, I had said
But
earlier, like I would love to hear.
I have no doubt that you're right. That some builders are going to hang it up over this.
Oh yeah,
I do think you're right about that.
I, s- I said
I
earlier,
hope
I'd love
nobody
to hear an
loses.
official like Fender response. I would love to hear a like,
Oh no, they're not going
hi.
to do that.
No, that's what I'm saying. I would love to hear it of the, hey, here's why. Like, let me give you a reason. Let me paint for you Fender's picture of why we have to protect our Stratocaster from the and like
Honestly,
and like and like I said, you actually said it yourself, and I said it earlier. If it was again them going after the Chibsons of the Fender world, of hey, these people are on eBay, they're saying they're selling a Fender American Pro Stratocaster for $380 plus shipping from China, when that's making us look bad because they're putting Fender quality thoughts towards this crappily made whatever. It's like, well, first of all, some of your QC might be worse than
Well, I was about
China.
to
So,
say Fender quality is kind of a thing of the past. Like
but it would just, I
some of
would
this
love to
I've
see
seen a lot
some
of new
sort of
instruments.
response.
I've seen a lot of new instruments that are just have these issues that are just it's unacceptable for the price that they're demanding. Um,
Yeah.
necks and bridges not being centered. In some cases, strings not even being over the pickup. Like I've seen some wild stuff, and these aren't Squire. Like honestly, the
Yeah.
Squire consistency seems to be a lot better.
Well,
Um,
Leah did
and
her thing with the short scales like the Mustangs, and she had the
yeah,
two
it was a joke.
American made, and they were crap, but then decides to buy the
Mm-hmm.
Squire, and it's perfectly fine. And like Phil
Yep.
McKnight's talked about it before too, and he said, he had his own music store, similar to like your situation. Like we saw the stuff come in,
Well, I don't
and
own, but
he's
I run it.
well, I'm just saying,
I
like
manage the store. I don't
being
own
the
it.
one there, and he said like it was crazy because he can remember like the first time they got in an instrument that had like frets sprouting, and he's like, "Whoa, this is weird." Like he said, it actually cut his finger. He was bleeding a little bit. And he was like, "Whoa, this guitar just like bit me." And he said his wife was like, "Oh my gosh, are you okay?" And he's like, "No, I'm fine. It's just that's really weird." And he's like, "And now you get fret sprout, and it's like, oh well, yeah, deal with it. That's just a thing. That's always been a thing." And it's like, no, it wasn't.
Yep.
Used to quality instruments were quality, and like,
Yep. Now we just got to make sure they look good. That we can get a low weight number on the Sweetwater ad. Let's forget about it balances like shit. Um,
this
it's
Thunderbird only weighs
there are
6 pounds,
companies.
but 5 of them are in the
Yeah, but
headstock.
the headstock's 4 of those pounds, so you're going to end up holding it up the whole show, which is going to be way harder on your whatever injury you're trying to mitigate. Um, but but that's the thing is like when so many other companies are doing it quote unquote right, why would I go to Fender? It's all they have is their history,
Well, and I said earlier,
and
the the example of the guy who builds 50 a year. If you go to that guy and you're like, "Hey, I understand it's going to take 6, 7 months for this to get done, but like, here's what I want. I want a Strat, but what I want is a Strat that's made out of Purple Heart." Oh, that sounds kind of
yep,
cool. Yeah, but what I want with that is I want the whole neck to be made of Padauk. Okay, that's weird. Purple and red sounds great. Also, I want the fretboard to be dyed blue. Gotcha. Okay, and I want green inlays. Sounds great. I can do that. How much is that going to cost me? $2,500. Sounds good. That's a deal for a handmade custom instrument. And then they do that. You're not going to get Fender Custom Shop to make that for you. They're not going to make that. And if they do, it's $50,000 because they're stupid. So, like, it's literally the people Fender should be concerned are taking their sales because, well, they wanted a Stratocaster. Yeah, but they wanted shit you're not willing to do at a price that anyone can afford. So, like, you weren't getting them as, like you said, you've been on the Fender boycott for a while anyway. It's like you're not getting that person's business.
no,
It's not like somebody was standing outside Fender corporate and was like, "Hey, hey, come here, come here in this back alley real quick, and don't go inside that music shop that sells Fender stuff. Come here, come here." Got some guy in the back with a trench coat full of guitars. No, like the people
it's
aren't.
yeah, and that's the thing is, and it's you see it. You've seen it a number of times now. It's like once they, and it's not even a matter of they don't make what I want visually or whatever. It's a lot of these instruments are coming out with serious problems that aren't that should have never passed QC but you fired everybody. It's so like because you thought the economy was going to downturn. So like it's very much Fender made a bed and now they're laying in it, but they don't want to lay in it, and so they're looking at other ways to get out of the bed. The last thing on their mind is like, hey, why don't we make better instruments for a better price? We can weather the storm because we're a big giant company. Let's put out some like really good stuff, and
Yeah.
let's take a like. We just won't make as much money for a little bit because
Yeah.
we got ourselves here, and make good instruments. They can do it. I mean, my God, Fender. At one point that was all I would play. That's all I was playing because they for the money and that it was what were the years of the American Standard basses where they had the custom shop 60s pickups?
No clue.
Um, those were that was I think and people are gonna laugh because everybody says like 50s 60s. But honestly, like for me, because of when I grew up, that's the golden era of Fender for me personally. Now
I mean,
I have a 72 that I like, and the only reason I have that is because the first bass, the way I got started playing, my friend's dad had two instruments in the basement. He had a Fender electric 12-string guitar that they had strung as a 6-string, and they had a 72p bass. And my friend still has that bass, and I always try to buy it off of him, and he won't sell it to me. Well, it just a different 72 uh, came around, and I ended up buying it, and that's the only that I'm a Studio One guy, so now my DAW is Fender. That I won't. That's the only one I know how to use, so I won't get rid of that one. But
well, and you
it.
touched on it with they could just make better instruments. Look at like what Harley Benton was doing during COVID. It's like, hey,
Mhm.
I have an idea. Let's make the same just quality stuff, and we're going to put better things in it for about the same price. We're going to do all Goto hardware. Why?
Yeah.
Because it's good. People won't need to upgrade the stuff like so many of the people were doing, and you get a good instrument for a good price. Like Fender has enough money in the bank that absolutely they could turn around and go, "Hey, you know what? Um, let's do like our old made in Japan quality instruments." And rather than increasing the price 42% over the last 10 years, where inflation's only gone up like 20 to 25%, how about we actually cut that and instead of increasing the price, we keep the price. Hey, this, like you were talking about, some of the, because Leah did her video where she was talking about like the prices that have happened in the last 10 years versus inflation. And
Yep.
like some of those, you look at it and it's like, okay, so the like J&J Mustang, it's like, okay, so this thing was whatever, $1,400. Now it's 1,900, $1,900. It's like, this is just, okay, well, it's made in Mexico, so it has the tariff. Okay, first of all, if that tariff is 25%, let's just, as she pointed out, that's on the cost, not on the retail, but 25% across the whole price. Okay, how much more is it for you to make it in the US? Can you make it in the US with the same price tag and then be like, hey, you know what? Because of the tariff situation, we're going to make US made instruments for the same price. And here you go. Now you have, all that great Fender quality. Actually hire someone in QC who knows how to look over an instrument, maybe play it before it goes out in the box. I don't know. Seems crazy to me, but you might notice if the E string isn't sitting in the nut, maybe. I don't know.
Well, and that's the thing is, you brought up the inflation thing. This is actually like is Reverend is a flagship brand at our store, and that's one of
I
the things that
really
I
want to
always
try
bring up.
one.
You know, you can, um, and that, but that's one. of the things I always bring up at a time when I never like call out a company by name when dealing with, in that environment, but at a time when other companies that are very familiar to us were like, it just seemed like they were like doubling their prices, citing, inflation. And then you look at the price increase from those, and then you look at a company like Reverend, and actually they had price increases, but they were less than inflation in a lot of ways. They just took a slight
Yeah.
hit on their margin. Um,
Yeah.
that's the kind of company I want to reward. That's the kind of company I want to promote because they make good instruments at a good price already. They're not made in a sweatshop. They're not, they're made ethically. They are made in South Korea, but they are made ethically, and they're good instruments. And when there is a problem, you still get it. It's not uncommon to call up there and get Ken Haas on the phone. Like they're an engaged management team, um, and that's why it's companies like them, companies like Lakeland and Earthquaker, and these companies that are maybe they are kind of piggybacking off of Fender, but they're doing but in some on some designs, but they're doing a better job
Yeah.
um, for a better price. And like I said, when there is a problem, because we get a lot of people that come and they tell us these stories about their Fender. Like one guy, it was actually a Strat. He got the what is it? Is it the Ultra 2 now? The American Ultra 2?
Pick an adjective and a number.
Yeah, I don't. The top of the line before you get to custom shop, basically.
Probably.
Uh, Ultra or Ultra 2 or whatever.
Ultra
And
2
but
S Plus Max
whatever.
Apple.
Yeah. So, but it had an ebony fingerboard, and he thought that was cool, and he bought it. First one showed up had a dip in the ebony fingerboard. Sent that back. The next one shows up like 3 months later. Um, Next one shows up, and it has the same issue. He sent it back again, and the next one took like 6 months to get it in, and it had the same issue. Now, I kind of thought they were sending him the same guitar. He never looked at the serial number, so he couldn't tell me.
Yeah.
But
That's what I was
it's
thinking.
I don't know, but you know, like the same frets, the dip or whatever, and he said it was at the same frets every time. I'm like, man, I could see it having that same issue, but at the same exact place every time. But anyway, doesn't matter. He was dealing with a different store. Because again, we don't deal Fender, but that at the time that was at like the crux before they kind of started lowering prices a little bit. That was it was like a $2,300 guitar, and it was like that kind of an issue with that price point is not that's not acceptable. Like it's
No.
ridiculous. And then the fact that you either send them the same guitar, other times, or you send them different guitars with the same
That all
exact
suck.
issue is ridiculous. And that guy ended up buying a, PRS from us. Um, PRS, there's a good example. Big company, they have an overseas line. They have, they're a very big company. They don't have these issues. Are they as big as Fender? No, but because Paul Reed Smith is engaged, it's not just some board meeting where oh well, the spreadsheet's green, so everything's good. It's you have an engaged owner that is part of the process, that is very much in the process. Um, and those are the companies that at my store that I want to deal with. Um, and I think the more and more stuff like this happens, I think that's the way the public are going to sway too. Um, because I mean, it's just I think people are just fed up with it, just like being told what Well, you got to have a Fender. Like, no, you don't. Like, there's no
Yeah.
magic wand in Corona, California. If there was, they'd know how to make a neck. Um, so the fact that these other companies are, if they, the claim is they're copying your design, but yeah, and they're making a better guitar.
And that's
That
the
should
thing that
bother
has
you as
Fender
much.
scared because
Yeah,
if they're copying your shape, why should anyone buy theirs? Oh, because it's cheaper. Okay, well then is your quality not worth the amount you're charging?
no,
Like,
it's not.
why is theirs cheaper? Oh, well, theirs is cheaper because they don't use as good of materials. Okay, so that means you must make the superior product, right? Then why do you care if the people who can't afford your product are buying something of lesser value for less money? Well,
Yeah,
because they would have come to us. Nobody's coming
no,
to
they
you
wouldn't have.
spending $2,000 for a JMJ Mustang unless they have a distinct reason they need exactly that, and that's called Stockholm syndrome.
Well, and you do see that. I mean, you see people saying, "Well, they they own it's a Fender Jazz Bass." And it's like, well, Leo Fender. It all goes back to him, and he purposely only copyrighted the headstock and the logo. And like the reason he did that, I mean, theories. There's theories about why, but one of the theories is that back then that really wasn't uncommon because these guys that like essentially were like these giants in an industry, they wouldn't do that because they wanted the industry to grow. And if you
Competition.
think about it, that's a much smarter approach too. Because so now, if I'm Fender and I only have my headstock and my logo copyrighted, so that people can't just out and out say this is a Fender when it's not. Um, but I don't copyright anything else. I let them build off of it. Then guess what? Like, yeah, maybe they took a little bit from me in the beginning, but are we to expect that Fender didn't take any ideas from these other builders, like down the road? Because that's how it works. That's another reason why they did it. And
Yeah. Who was the first
it's
company to put stainless steel frets on something and said, "Hey, these won't wear out near as fast."
mhm,
And
no
then
idea.
other companies go, "Hey,
Yeah,
that's a good idea right there." Or,
and it's
hum canceling pickups.
yep.
Now everybody's got that. Who was the first company
That
that
and
went through and said, "Hey, I could shield the electronics so that." Oh, but then everyone can do that. Who put I mean, now granted, you can go into things like carbon fiber rods in the neck, or you can go into tone woods and things like that rabbit hole, but, like, all of these who was the first one? Like, Leo Fender put together instruments because what did he have? He had alder, he had maple, so that's what he used because it was there, it was
yep,
cheap. And now you've got
yep,
companies that'll use I mean, I've got friggin' Wenge, Padauk, Purple Heart, all sorts of stuff in this instrument. Why? Because it's pretty, but
yeah.
you
It
didn't
does.
you didn't you didn't have that. That's why it's theirs because it's pretty.
Yeah. It's I, like I said, it's this is a bad idea for Fender, and it's showing. Right now you got the YouTubers coming out against you. Um, and you've pissed off all the stores. They're not going to defend you on the grassroots level because you've been screwing the stores over for the last few years with this Selton Direct and all this nonsense that you've been doing. When you could make the argument that the only reason Fender is as big as it is because of the stores. Um, but um, it's I think people are just more informed now, and they're with everything else going on in the world. They're not, it gets people are noticing more and more what some of these big companies do, and they're getting fed
Oh
up
yeah.
with it,
It used to
and they're
go
looking
under the
elsewhere.
rug. Like
Well, it's
Gibson
like,
could sue 50 people and no one heard about it because what news outlet was going to pick up local guy Jim Bob who makes guitars got sued by Gibson, nobody cared.
Yep.
Only Jim Bob and his friends. Well, now Jim Bob and one of his friends, who's like one of us, has a few hundred subscribers on YouTube, can make a
Mhm.
video, and because we're friends with people like Leah, who have a lot more subscribers, who is friends with Johnny Dibble, who's across the pond and closer to this situation, like it bounces around, goes all through social media, which normally is awful. But in this case, it can actually be harnessed for like a public outcry for the stuff that wouldn't have even been known
You know,
before.
you know, you know what else cracks me up is like, so in the '80s, Fender almost went out of business um, because everybody was playing like pointy guitars, all the hair bands and everything. So what did Fender do? They started borrowing a lot from those designs and making their own versions of it, but borrowing heavily from other people's designs
Mhm.
because it worked.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, more people were playing like the Japanese stuff back then, but it kept them afloat long enough to ride the wave. And when more vintage style instruments became in fashion again, and that's the thing is like you're this giant company, you could ride this cycle out and just try to make better instruments, like focusing on making better instruments instead of hiring more luthiers and QC people instead of hiring more lawyers to figure out how to snuff out your competition rather than just beating them.
You could
Um,
easily turn around and say, financially, we can make what everyone's come back to for the last
yep,
70 years. If we keep making stuff, people will see there's a reason we're still around.
yeah,
Or you can just be, you know, asshats and sue
and look
everybody.
what they do. Look what they do. I always talk about this too when this topic comes up. Like, look what they do when there is a super popular design. How they try to like trick you. Like remember when the Pinot Palladino bass came out and everybody wanted a Fiesta Red P bass with a tortoiseshell pickguard. I still love that look, and it's directly linked to the Pinot Palladino bass. Um, and what did they do? They came out with a Squire one that ended up being like a really good bass, I guess, by all accounts. People say that's when the classic vibe came out, and then they had the $4,000 custom shop and purposely didn't put anything in the middle. And like they do that. Like people remember stuff like this. Like
And now they
you,
do the opposite. There's an instrument at every like $200 up.
yes,
How much
yeah.
can your pocketbook afford? Cool. Finance a little bit more and buy this one.
Yeah, and I just I don't have any sympathy for them. Like they very much dug this hole, um, and now they're instead of just trying to dig themselves out, their solution is to go after people, and it's going after instead of putting the money into their product, they put the money into lawyers to go after these other builders when you have the means to just beat them, just make a better product at a better price. You could
I
totally
just
do that.
I think it's
But no,
funny because
I want to eliminate the competition so that I can continue to screw over my customer
oh
base.
yeah.
And
And that's
like
what
that's all it
Leah
is.
said. That's what Leah said. She's like, "Do you really think if Fender wins everything that they hope for, that we're gonna see $1,000 Mexican made? No, we're gonna see $3,000
Yep.
Mexican made instruments because now there's no competition."
And this is just showing my age, but $1,000 Mexican instrument is insane to me. But I think I'm just getting at that age where everything seems expensive. Um, I remember, man, like I remember when like in the that was back when honestly, if you played a Mexican jazz bass and an American jazz bass, they didn't really feel all that different. Um, you could get like you get a Mexican jazz bass and swap the pickups and you know
One
be
that's
fine.
funny One that's funny is you have like Leah, she put out that video on the Japanese made one that
Hmm.
Fender has the ability to make good products. Their Fender
Yeah, they don't.
Japan are still good, but not only can they make things at that quality, because let's face it, again, if you had good quality control people in there who cared about their job and we're given the ability to do the right thing. Because again, a lot of times that you have stuff that slips through, it's slipping through because you got a 500 a day quota, and if you don't knock that many out of QC today, then we'll find someone to replace you. Like, we just
Yep.
need to get numbers. But the made in Japan stuff is so good. And then Leah talks about it like literally you have to have like all this stupid craziness put together in order to get a made in Japan instrument. Where Fender
Yeah.
could literally just be like, you know what? Fender.com, they could have just a drop down menu in the filters. What company of origin do you want it to come from? And you know why they don't do it? Because not many people are picking USA. They're going to go, I want quality, I'll go Japan. I want lesser price, even though they're stupid expensive now. I'm going to take made in Mexico. Why am I going to pay $15,000 for a made in the USA if a Fender Japan's going to actually be set up and play properly when I get it?
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is like, I'd rather Fender just didn't sell direct, but they're not. That's one of those things where it's like I don't like it, but I can't say they're doing anything wrong with that. It's definitely a middle finger to their dealers, but like there's not. It's I can't be like that's wrong.
Yeah.
But like them doing what they're doing
Yeah.
right now and what they did and how they did these price increases and how they did all this stuff they did. Is it morally wrong? It's not for me to say, but what I can say is that's like the situation they're in now is a direct result of those moves. So, I don't. There's no. I'm never going to sympathize with a corporation because despite what some may say, I don't think corporations are people. So I'm not going to sympathize with them because it's not a sentient thing. It's a company. Like, um, but there's no. It's just yeah. It's Newton at this point. Like you did an action, and this is the reaction, and so now you're doing another action. So now people were trashing the instruments. Now they're trashing the instruments and the company,
Yeah.
and it's and a lot of us that like had these feelings for a long time, but was like, I mean doesn't mean no good to talk about it, but now we're having the discussion. So
I think
it's
it would be
it's
really
it's
funny
different.
if they weren't privately owned. I would have loved to have seen what this decision did to their stock prices.
I mean, and that's the thing is private equity is just a worse version of a corporation. They do that because there's not as many rules and stuff. It's just a way for you know, and like I said, I've been not anti Fender. Like I'm not preaching the gospel of anti Fenderism, but it's it was when they after during the pandemic when the demand was crazy, they brought all these people in, and some of them moved. Because Corona, California is not a place. It's pretty. It's it's not. There's not a lot of industry and stuff there, so a lot of people uprooted their lives, moved to this place to work at Fender, and so they were there they got through the high demand, and then they said, well, we think in a few months the economy's going to downturn, so we're going to lay you all off now.
Yeah.
That's when I stopped buying anything with a Fender logo. And I got rid of just about everything that had a Fender logo. The only exception being my dog. Um, but I it sucks. I want to like Fender. I have a lot of great memories playing their instruments. But
I think the only other
what
thing,
they're proving it, like that's the thing that they're proving is that they're not special because they're just doing everything that a big company does. All the same shit, all the same excuses. Like so your actions are demonstrating that you're no different. Um,
I think the last thing on it
You know,
too is like they are showing, and they have for the last couple years. If you want a good example, you look at NAMM. They're showing they don't care about their customer base. Because you go to NAMM and
mm-mm,
it's like, why do you go to NAMM? It's Comic Con for musicians. You go there because you want
yeah,
to see the stuff that you like, you want to experience it, you want to learn if something new is coming, and you want to share that experience with those places. Like, I liked going to the Trickfish booth.
yeah,
I don't own a Trickfish, but I'm working on a combo. Um,
yeah. You should.
but like I
Favorite amp company. That's one of the things I'm thinking about doing is a big sell off because I want that the 3K the bullhead 3K. I want to go to that, and I want to go to I want to try 8/8s for of their cabinets um, with that uh, with that 3K head because I've been doing a lot. I got a lot of things that like for Aristotle that's way too that's overkill and a half. But there's some other stuff that I got that I'm working on where I'm going to be using like synths and stuff like that. And something with that much headroom is ideal for a synth because it's you're asking a lot of a regular bass amplifier at that point.
yeah,
I will say I have that 1200 head, and uh, it seems to handle it pretty good. I haven't
and
had
that's
any
the thing.
issues,
Like
but
you
I
can
also don't play it super high volume.
Yeah, and you can go to NAMM and you can see people like the Trickfish folks. You can go to the Close booth and you can talk to Adam and Tim and all those guys,
Yeah,
and just you can visit with people that do the things you like. You can see the products, but
yeah,
then you got Gibson and Fender who are on the third floor in private suites, invite only. They don't bring instruments. You're literally just going there to hobnob with business people, which isn't why
yep,
anyone. I mean, NAMM is supposed to be for the merchants, but like the Sweetwater guys, yeah, they'll go up there and talk to Fender. But like the public access people, like the 99% of who attends, like we're there
yep.
because we want to see the stuff and talk to the people, but they don't care.
I
They
actually
don't
had
even.
this argument. I actually had this argument at work with someone because that's what I because they were saying how NAM's pointless, and I was like, well, it depends how you look at it. If you're looking at it from a term of like product awareness and things like that, like in getting the word out on the new stuff, yeah. But that's the way you said it's Comic Con for musicians. Like that's what NAM is now. Is it's just a big networking thing. It's for us to get. It's the same thing as like a gun show for that crowd and car shows.
Yep.
Ford and Chevy don't make dick off of a car show. Like but
Yeah.
people go there to look at the old Fords and Chevys and to talk to each other, talk to like-minded nerds in their subject. And which I'm a nerd on all three of the things I just mentioned. But so it's that's the function of NAM. I agree with you on that. Is that it's more of a entertainment for musicians thing now than it is a and I really think they should just embrace that because the internet has made from a standpoint of like companies having to come out there to show their new products. The internet made that irrelevant decades ago.
Yeah.
Um, you can just do a post on Facebook and be like, "Yeah, here's our new guitar." Um,
Yeah.
but that doesn't make the NAM show pointless.
Well, and you go to
It's an
NAMM and
attraction.
yeah, you could go to NAMM and walk around. You might see something from a small builder that you had almost no chance of hearing of, and you just see something in the distance and it's like that looks really cool, and you walk over there and then you meet the guy or girl,
Yep.
whoever, or person, you meet the person who makes the stuff, and you're like, that thing looks really cool, and then they go, oh, let me tell you about how I did all this, and then you're like, I've never heard of anything like that before in my whole life. That's amazing. And
Yeah.
how would you have found them on the internet with the millions and millions of videos and everything else that are out there? Like, you might never have heard of them before. So it's really cool to just walk around and be like, oh, well, I don't care about fret wire. Like I'm not looking at a place that sells components to a luthier. That doesn't appeal to me. But when I walk by and I see a bass that looks ridiculous and I see a $20,000 tag hanging off of it and I can be like, that is amazing. That's a piece of art. I'm going to take a picture of that and then see if someone else can make one for me I can afford. Like, it's still fun to walk around and look at the things. But then you get, again, the companies like Fender that are basically like, yeah, we don't need you. We don't care about you. You don't need to come talk to us. Like, if we want to
Yeah,
talk to you, we'll let you know. But
yeah. I mean, and that's yeah. I don't when there's and that's the thing is there's so many companies not doing that, and that's I would rather see the conversation refocus to that. It's like, okay, yeah, Fender and Gibson are doing what they're doing, but what are these other companies up to?
yeah,
And like, I would rather us be talking about that than all the bullshit that Fender's doing. But it is what it is, and like, and that's the thing is how much money they're going to waste on this, and the end result is they're eventually going to come to the conclusion like, oh, well, we'll just make better instruments. It's like you can just do that
we
now.
hope.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't care what they do. There, like I said, like even if they get what they want, I that just makes me I'll just get more creative with the bases I buy. Like they lost me with that layoff thing.
Yeah.
Um, and
I've never liked
could
the
things
Fender
change and
shaped
they start?
objects anyway. So
I mean, could
they've
things
never
change
had
and
me.
they do some kind of a way to make it right? You know, and make me want to like look at them again. Yeah, whatever. But that's something I factor in is how with companies I patronize, and it's not. I'm sure I got stuff that I don't agree with the way it was made. Um, at this point, just because I have so much crap. I mean, the phone that I'm talking to you on, I don't agree with the way it was made. But instruments are one of those things where you can really you really have a good idea of the environment it was made in, and you can a lot of times you can tell by looking at the instrument itself. That's why we've had those conversations about the one bass that we've been reviewing, because it has a lot of telltale signs that I've seen over the years. Um, but it's whatever. Um,
And then we have the other one that'll be coming before in the next few months. So that's the exact opposite.
yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is like, who am I gonna, in this store that I'm running? Um, there's certain companies that every music store has to have. So, do I like it? No, but it's you gotta carry it. And there's but the ones that I do have a choice on, like man, I really pay attention to how they are. I can't tell you how many times I've tried to bring a company in and they just ignored me completely. So that's how they are when I want to make them money. So how are they going to be when I get a faulty instrument and it's going to cost them money? So
Yep.
it's like those are the kind of things I think about, and that's why I like with Reverend PRS, Fano, these brands that we carry. It's like, man, no, number one, there's not normally an issue, but if there is, they're so quick to handle it. Like I ordered like 25 guitars from Reverend recently, and everything was great except one bass had an issue, and I was like, well, first of all, one out of this giant order, since I've been there, we've ordered probably well over 100 guitars from Reverend, and this is the only one we've ever sent back. We did have one other one that a customer found an issue, but they did the RMA process on their own. So, and I've talked to that customer. He said, "Yeah, Reverend, they did it. They made it right." So we actually changed our QC process changed as a result of that because this issue got missed. But you know, I had it was a Dub King bass and it had an issue with the neck, and we sent it back, and they ended up being able to fix it, and it was back it went left our store and was back in our store less than a week. Now, a lot of that's geography. We're in Ohio, they're in Ohio. But the fact is that it came in, they immediately looked at it. That's what that told me. And they just, I've gotten to go to the facility up in Toledo, and it's like them and Earthquaker. It's just they're so adamant about like the team. First of all, the team is always like super experienced and small. That's going through all this stuff, and that's usually just because of they're not a big company. But I do think there's a certain advantage to that. Some people, I mean, and rightfully so, maybe they're a bit rushed because they have more volume to get through. But I don't know, like those companies seem to be more consistent than the big ones. So it's like, I. And
Yeah.
that's the other thing is when the company's small like that and there's an issue, they handle it and they handle it a lot faster.
Well,
Um,
maybe
now,
that's what we can talk about next week if you're
yeah,
available. Maybe we'll talk about like alternatives to big companies like Fender and Gibson. Talk about Reverend or Trickfish, and like Trickfish
man,
only
that's
has
a
like
that's a
two
slippery
guys.
slope. I don't want to get anybody sued.
We didn't say they're
But
doing the same thing. We just said they're better.
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, I definitely that's the stuff I'm using. I mean, we could do that. We could do like top three companies or pick effects pedals, amps, basses. Well, you can do it that way.
Sounds
That'd
good.
be interesting.
Okie
But,
dokie.
all right, man.
Well,
It was a
for the
pleasure.
for the whole one person who it says is still here, there were like four, and then they all ran away. But this Chris, he's gonna have a new video sometime soon. At least one, maybe six. I don't know. I'm trying. I'm trying to increase his production.
Well, I mean, I'm in a lot of videos for the music store now, so everybody should go follow that.
So it's like an Andertons, but the UK, but the US.
We're trying to do our own thing. I encourage everybody to go follow it. I mean, it's the center of music and art in Wintersville,
Oh,
Ohio. So the
send
one
me
person on
the
here will know.
about to say send me a
Yeah,
link and I can put it in the description.
yeah. I'm working on it. And it's
Beep. Something
yeah.
beeped.
I got an email. That's why I don't like doing this stuff on my phone. Come on.
Yep. Chris is going to send that. I will have it in the description so everybody can go look at it. And hey, there it is right there. I will get it in there. So that'll do it for today. You have any salutations you want to give?
No, sorry I was late. But yeah,
There we go.
everybody come look at that. Yep.
Fair enough. As always, thanks for stopping by. Whoever's still there, thanks for watching. Hope you have a day as awesome as you are. Supposed to
Dang.
go to the song.